Michael Fall. I'm looking forward to having a conversation with you and very nice to meet you. Welcome to Face.
Thank you very much for having me. Good to be back on the show.
Oh my gosh, my memory, huh? We've done this. We've done this before. How long ago?
A few months ago, I think I was on maybe December or early January.
I'm really slipping then if it was only a few months. So,
Hey, no
all
worries.
right.
The market's been choppy, so it kind of takes away
Well,
everyone's energy, right?
anyway, it's also the decades of doing it. So, uh, all right, Michael. So, why don't we just start off with the triangle you're looking at here in the S&Ps? Where would we break out?
Yeah, so I mean, I think I've just been talking about how beneficial the CPI data has been for stocks here, and I kind of
Yeah.
want to maybe temper expectations a little bit as
Okay.
we're now kind of gapping up into basically the upper range of what's been consolidation here for the long time. So just looking at the SPY chart here, pretty basically, right, pretty
Yeah.
kind of typical little rising wedge pattern, and we need to basically get confirmation before this move happens.
Where would that come in the SPY? I think the S&P's cash would come in around 4,200.
Yeah, so I'm looking pretty much the same areas, like 415 to 420, that kind of range. I'm looking for volume to step in and basically confirm these moves. As long as we're continually seeing that sort of decreasing volume pattern inside of a consolidation range, I need to see that, hey, we're actually seeing that momentum breakout and actually seeing that enthusiasm step in and give me a little bit of confidence. And so we haven't seen these big gap ups continue. We tend to see those moves kind of reverse in the short term and then find support and go. So I think today maybe the risky trade or the challenging trade is kind of chasing this move higher immediately.
Okay, so S&Ps, do you break it down into sectors, or you tell me what you teach people and what you trade? You trade all instruments, or do you have a focus on just certain markets, or do you screen a lot and then just go to wherever the opportunity is with your people?
Yeah, so I pretty much do the same thing I did at the fund I worked at. I focus on a sector. So mostly these days it's mega cap tech. That's where most of the liquidity is if you're going to be trading stocks or options anyway.
Okay.
So my focus is really on those high liquidity names with kind of, minimal spreads, limited slippage, or at least less opportunities for sort of execution errors. So really my focus, especially on a day like today where we're going to be so data driven or kind of really waiting for even more headlights with FOMC, it's going to be really just focusing on the leading names. So,
so let's take a look at Microsoft, because I have it. It won't do it, at least on the opening. You have potentially a breakout failure at 262.
Yeah. So there's a couple things here, right? We kind of have a little bit of evidence of now this kind of zone basically being dipped on, right? We've kind of seen a few times opportunities for bears to reclaim control there, and they failed in their attempts to do so. And then now a pretty nice gap up kind of gets us stuck in the middle of inside of, say, this consolidation range, right? So we'll call this like the upper range, right? This the lower range, and we're basically stuck in the middle. So it's hard to say that we're actually going to get a breakout until that resolution is kind of out of the way. I would say maybe like that 291, 290 area starts to give you a little bit of joy where you have a shelf that you can kind of bounce off of and then some thin wiki price action above. But I think as long as we're still sort of under that 300 psych level, there's a little bit of an opportunity where Microsoft can reject really easily. Maybe the path of least resistance, right, is kind of fill this gap here, right? This kind of like 297 gap, this sort of area. And then that becomes your spot. That becomes your spot where you can maybe look for resistance to step in. But I think if you're going to be a bull, you want to see the reaction inside this zone, basically make sure that you're getting support stepping in there, because then that's going to give you kind of like that rocket fuel for that 300 test.
What if we take out 262? What kind of downside do you see?
Well, I think the
282, excuse me.
Yeah. The immediate shelf here seems to be kind of like this 245, 250 area, right? That's kind of where we got that high volume bounce. So I would expect, that would be the zone where I'd see bull step in. Again, I'm a big psychological level guy. So I think that sort of 250 range would be a reasonable area in say like, 3 weeks, a month's time, if we actually got a volume confirmation sell-off.
How about Apple, Mike?
Yeah, I love Apple. It's one of my favorite names to trade, especially because it continually acts as it's such a good leading name, like even more so than Microsoft. I feel like if Apple's getting stuck, then that's going to bring it down a lot of things with it. Same thing like we just talked about, how there's a little bit of like a shelf here where we've kind of find that dip support. this for me looks a lot more positive. Higher high yesterday, higher low yesterday. So, maybe a little bit of a short-term bounce where we can get a little bit of continuation, maybe up towards like that 165 zone. But above that area, we start to see a little bit of rejections, or we start to see a little bit of a range. And then I know a few people were talking about sort of like channels here, right? That starts to become the upper end of that sort of channel high. So I wouldn't want to be hyper aggressive past that sort of 167, 166 zone until I can kind of get that big breakout. So it seems like kind of generally the narrative that I feel like I'm seeing across the board is that we have some potential higher, but the ceiling of which we need to crack through it feels pretty strong. And so I haven't felt that much conviction in the way markets have moved in the last 6 months. It still felt relatively like range bound and maybe not the smoothest trending price action. So to feel like I'm going to get like 10 days of, follow through to the upside maybe feels like a little bit too ambitious.
10 days in any instrument.
Yeah.
Try and put two together.
Oh, I know these days.
Isn't it like that?
Feels like that, right? Like
a buddy of mine calls the market, it's like playing hopscotch. You're on one leg one day and you're on two legs, and then you go back to one leg.
At the very end, I'm just left spinning, right?
Yeah. So semis have been really the leadership besides Apple and Microsoft. And up until today, they're starting to show little signs of, NVIDIA.
Yeah.
Actually, NVIDIA makes a new high. It would still be a short in my view. Let me ask you this: on the bottom of your chart, is that just volume and open interest? The other blue lines open interest?
No, it's just volume and a moving average here. So
okay, all right.
For myself, I'm not willing to jump into a trade until I've got kind of like outlier momentum. So for me, that standard is anything above sort of the 20 period moving average of the volume. So if I'm looking for confirmation on a 5 or 10 minute time frame, if I'm getting a break and hold through a level, I want to see that increasing outlier volume on a break. That kind of signifies to me that, hey, I actually got other people looking at my idea too.
Does it mean anything to you that up until yesterday, big stocks like Deere and Cat have been pummeled and really, not participating in the rally for months now?
I think that's been a narrative that we've seen pretty much all of 2023 so far, where there's been a handful of names that have basically been propping up all the sort of inflows and all the sort of, kind of positive price action that we've seen in markets. And so everything else seems like people are almost moving to these like identifying safe havens inside the equity space and kind of loading up into those names and then kind of moving away from everything else. As for like specific sector stuff or agricultural things, I think it's people are just willing to call Apple less speculative than a Deere, I think is really what it comes down to. And they're more willing to kind of put some emphasis there. But from my
it's like a safe haven trade now, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. And from my perspective, it just doesn't feel like a very healthy market when only, 10% of participants are actually showing that much strength.
Talking about it not being a healthy market, I remember hearing from Larry Williams decades ago that the market really isn't that bullish if you're getting rally in gold at the same time. And the miners, did you catch the miners? I mean, they've been the trade of the quarter, and really over the last 30 days. You have a view on like GDX or anything like that?
Yeah, let's bring up GDX here. So for myself personally, like if I'm trying to catch this move here now, I'm too late, right? The move was getting in a month ago, was anything along those lines. So I think really the most logical step here, right, based on just a pure like technical analysis thing, would be to start looking for high volume rejections basically inside the zone. Can we defend maybe this gap here, right, towards like 36.70, something along those lines, and then look for a fade? Or I would need to see a really aggressive pullback into essentially this, like, we'll call it breakout here, right?
29-ish. 30.
Exactly. Yeah. If I could find some support along those lines, that becomes a more logical risk reward setup towards kind of getting a little bit of a move. But I think if I'm trying to chase it at this point, I'm getting like a FOMO play here.
Okay. So I'm getting a feel from talking to you. Do you teach supply demand areas and your students to look left? And because, I hear you talking about support resistance a lot. So
I'd say that's generally my focus. I'm a big believer in just simple is beautiful. So look for daily high and low
Well,
breakouts.
I'm a simpleton then.
Yeah, exactly. Right. That's the way to be. But
Yeah.
weekly highs and lows, right? Monthly highs and lows. I'm expecting a reaction around those zones. And then basically looking for volume and candles to tell me the same story. So I'm really trying to keep things as kind of basic and simple as I can there. And then really my favorite way that I've been trading over the last even 3 months or so has just been using Bollinger Bands for like reversion to the mean type strategies where we open up outside of say an upper or lower band and kind of think that we're going to get some price action kind of climbing back down towards sort of the middle or back up towards the middle. And I found those to be probably my most successful trades so far this year.
Okay. We had that OPEC announcement a week ago and crude gapped up, hasn't made much progress, but are you seeing anything in oils? Because that was the big leader, the big star last year.
Yeah.
And this year it's given some back. Okay, there's Exxon.
Yeah. So I'll play my exposure this with stocks. And I think this is telling us kind of that needs to consolidate, catch its breath after such a big gap up, right? So we are wedging a little bit here. We've kind of got a nice, like little possible bull flag set up, but that's a big gap up, right? So you would think that it probably needs to catch its breath. Let's get a breakout back up and over sort of this like 117.30 zone. And then you've got a path towards that 120 barrier pretty quickly. But we need to be defending or consolidating inside this wedging that's a big move, right? Going into earnings. So it's scary to want to front run this. But I think maybe the path of least resistance, I think it's the same thing across sort of metals, commodities. That move has happened or that move feels like it's happened a little bit here. So I need to see it pull back, consolidate, kind of figure out what the sort of basis, see that get defended a few times. And then I feel like I'll have some confidence chasing it to the upside. But the risk reward ratios to play these things higher, I don't feel like I have a positive expectation of being extremely profitable in those trades, or I don't think that's maybe the path of least resistance in the short term. So I'm still waiting for more data and more kind of information to kind of give me a bit more confidence here.
Okay. And, anything else, I mean, chart wise, or you want to talk about what you do? You have a trading room? Do you have a course? Where did you learn technical analysis? Did you have a mentor? Did you go into a room and learn just like you're paying it forward now as people pay you?
Yeah. So my first job out of school was actually working as a trader for a pretty big family office based in Guernsey. There I helped manage a little bit over like $11 billion in capital as a trade execution trader. I sat next to a guy named Steph, who was a 45-year-old Greek man at the time who ate just a little bit too much garlic for my personal liking and got yelled at him every time I did something stupid, but really learned how to trade by just seeing basically a fully transparent process of how he's executing trades, why he's looking at things, why he was sort of interpreting price action the way he was, and kind of learned my chops there. I worked there for about 5 years before then branching out on my own. Brexit kicked me out of the UK, so decided to move back to Canada and started kind of trading my own capital. That coincided with the pandemic boom and bust, and ended up being a pretty beneficial time for my portfolio.
Why did Brexit force you to leave the UK?
I was there as a EU citizen, so I've got a Polish passport, and so my right to work there was basically taken away. So I could have applied for citizenship, but I would have had to have given up either my British passport, or sorry, my Canadian passport or my Polish passport, and I was unwilling to do that. So decided to move on. But
you spend any time in Poland?
I did, yeah. I lived there a little bit as a kid, and then try to go back and see family there every year if I can.
Because I've read some articles about Poland that it's really the hope of Europe. The way they've developed economically, is that just PR, or is there a future in Poland if Russia doesn't invade?
Yeah, that's the huge cloud hanging over everyone here.
Are people nervous about it there?
I know my cousins are for sure, but
yeah,
you have to understand Polish people hate Russians more than they almost hate anyone else. I mean, they're still occupied by the Soviet Union, right, until the 90s.
Yeah.
So they were the last country after World War II, right, to kind of gain their full freedom and independence. And so there's a lot of bitterness there. And so there's maybe a little bit of extra fear mongering compared to normal. But what I have noticed, at least in Warsaw and Krakow, is that they've become hubs for a lot of the big banks. So
That's what I
JPM,
mean. Yeah.
Morgan Stanley, it seems like a lot of their back office operations are kind of based out of there now. And it seems to have been quite a positive impact on sort of those city centers. And I know that Poland, it seems like they made a really good decision not kind of adopting the euro and kind of staying with the Polish zloty. And that's had some, I think, relatively positive impacts for them and kind of allowed them to have a little bit of independence in a relatively restrictive EU.
Interesting. Yeah, they're one. Yeah, they're one of the few countries that kept their own currency.
Yeah, it seems like it's a must for EU membership these days, and they were able to kind of skirt away from that.
Okay, interesting. So why don't you kind of give us a little tour of what you do? I've been to your link tree where it has all the different things that you do. You could show that, or
yeah,
well, I could show that.
I'm happy to just kind of talk you guys through it. What I do is a couple things similar to what you guys do. I help fund traders to trade with stocks instead of FX. So if you are interested in ever getting funded, de-risking, trading with up to $1 million in capital, I help traders pass their evaluation tests and kind of take care of all those costs for them. From a personal level, I'm live streaming my trading day in, day out from about 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. most days, and then offer one-on-one coaching services for my members. So really what I try to focus on with traders is helping them develop structures where they can start learning from their mistakes, really kind of work on like applying a consistent process to creating a consistent outcome. And then if you're really able to do that, then, once you have that proof of concept, scaling and growing and kind of, finally compounding some of your trading, it starts to happen much quicker. What I kind of noticed with a lot of sort of starting traders or traders who are kind of stuck in the middle of not really getting that progress that they want is they're trading too many ideas or they're trading too many different types of setups, and they end up kind of confusing themselves on what they're trying to do. So if we can focus on really kind of mastering one A+ setup, one perfect way, or one perfect way for them to trade, not necessarily perfect results, but kind of what suits their personality, that's the fastest way for traders to kind of scale and improve. And so that's really what I do on a day-to-day basis. But my main focus is trading. I love working with other traders because it helps keep me accountable, and I find it a lot of fun. But ultimately, day job is day trading, and I couldn't imagine doing anything else.
Okay, so most of your stuff is okay. I discovered that at the end of near the end of the interview that you're mainly day trading. You're not swing or position trading at all.
Yeah, I do have a long-term portfolio, but I add to that systematically, not discretionally. I guess it's a little bit of a habit from my hedge fund days, but we weren't allowed to do any discretionary trades just for like kind of compliance reasons. Yeah. So all the stuff I was allowed to do was just buy indexes and, every quarter add to your position, stuff like that. So that's pretty much what my long-term portfolio is. I maybe have a slightly different time horizon than a lot of other traders, as I'm just turned 30. So got a few years here where maybe my entry timing isn't as important to me. If I've just got kind of, 10, 15-year horizons on some of my ideas. So I try not to overcomplicate it or give myself kind of biases for my day trading.
What's the shortest time frame that you trade off of, and what's the main TF that you trade off of?
Yeah. So
and do you go in between them for different looks? And the last question, do you ever look at a monthly chart?
Yeah, so great questions. I'd say for confirmations, I'm generally looking on the 5, 10, 15, or 30-minute time frame. And then my setup triggers. Yeah, my setup triggers are then on the daily or monthly time frame usually. So I'm looking for the short term to kind of sync up with the longer term trend that I'm seeing. And then really the first sign of strength that kind of confirms short-term trending price action is back with the long-term trending price action. That ends up becoming my entry signal.
Okay. We're getting a question. How much does your course cost?
Yeah. So it depends on how much you want to get funded with or how much you're willing to trade with. But it can start from as little as $99 a month and go to anywhere for $375 a month.
Okay. And that $375, is that applied to an assessment?
Yeah. So I cover all your evaluation fees for you. So it's just one simple cost and gets taken care of on my end.
Oh, okay. So it's only one time.
No, it's a monthly fee, right? So
$370.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that covers your evaluation each month.
Oh, so you have it on a repeat basis. Okay.
Yeah.
And how much do you fund people with for that amount of money?
That's $100K.
100K. Okay. And anything you want to add, like the most important thing, Mike, that you tell your people, if there's one lesson or one thing that's top of mind every day when you sit down at your desk in front of your trading platform, what would that be?
Yeah, the thing I've been focusing on the most this year is being deliberate decision making. So planning out your entries, planning out your stop losses, making sure that all those kind of variables that you can control, you're actually controlling them and you have conviction in your ideas. I think impulsive decision making or impulsive trading can work when you have a 2020 COVID bull market, but when you kind of get a little bit of choppier conditions and you have a little bit of some challenging times, you don't want to be rewarding bad processes with good results because that ultimately crushes you on the way down. So the more that you can kind of separate and break down your trading and kind of into kind of like a flow chart, the more deliberate your actions are going to be, and then the more consistent your results are going to be. So just don't let fear and greed trick you into making a decision you don't want to make, and just really focus on the variables that you can't control.
Focus on the variables you can control. Michael F.A.C.E at DTR_trading. So yeah, Mike, I'll remember you next time.
No worries, Dale. I appreciate you having me on.
Buddy. You got nice, clean views, and sounds like you're walking the talk, and appreciate you coming in here and, letting me rattle off different instruments, and you're ready to share your views with us. I appreciate your giving nature to do that.
That's my pleasure. It's my favorite thing in the world. So if I can talk to other people about the markets, I don't have to bother the people in my life who are sick and tired of hearing about them.
All right. Yeah, I know how that is, buddy. So anyway, Michael, thanks so much for being here. Good hunting. Hope you have a great spring trading season, and all the people that you train become masters.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much. I hope you have yourself a fantastic quarter too.
All right. Michael F.A.C.E, everyone. Thank you. And listen, you can join the team in 20 minutes on the Morning Edge. And I hope everyone's okay after the Consumer Pleasure Purgatory Index. I don't know. I feel like things are a lot cheaper now. How about you? I'm going to go out and buy some eggs now, see if I could get a discount. So thank you, Anthony, and all you guys for being here. Consider becoming part of a community. Be part of a community and trade with traders who are better than you, and you'll rise to their level. And there sure are a bunch of them in ForexAnalytix community, in their chat rooms every day, building each other up, sharing ideas, supporting each other, especially if people are new and need some help, because we all remember what it was like to start, and we all want to help people avoid the landmines that have blown off a limb or two from our account. Thank you, Mary. And listen, guys, good luck today. See you tomorrow. And don't just count your pips, count your blessings. Adios.
Hey traders, this is Blake Morrow with ForexAnalytix. Thanks for stopping by our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like these videos, share them, and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of the content that we provide here for free. Thanks for stopping by. I'll see you in the next video.